The painter Gino Parin lived in the port city of Trieste before and during the rise of Italian fascism. Born Jewish, he converted to Catholicism. When Nazi Germany occupied Trieste, Parin was arrested and deported to a concentration camp in Germany, where he died. In this series, we encounter a life full of nuance and complications during the upheavals of the early 20th century.
Episode 3. Cristo.
The first time we saw Gino Parin's painting, Il Cristo, was in the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church in Cottonwood, Arizona. We expected the painting to be prominently displayed on the walls of the nave, around the altar, or perhaps in a side chapel. Instead, it hung hidden away in the sacristy, the small room not accessible to the public where the priest stores his vestments and the other sacred objects used during Mass.
At first, we were disappointed. Il Cristo is a medium-sized oil painting on plywood showing Jesus from the waist up. There is nothing spectacular about it, and Parin neither signed nor dated it.
Is that common? Do painters always sign and date their work?
Well, that depends, especially for an artist like Parin, whose work spans the last decades of the 19th century to the final years of World War II.
If only there were resources we could consult.
Funny that you should ask. There is, in fact, a comprehensive catalog of Parin's work. It was published in Italy in 2003 by Claudia Ragazzoni, an art conservator who runs her own business today in Trieste, Parin's hometown.
How exciting! What does Ragazzoni say?
Too much to be summarized here, but a couple of things are important for our story. First, the artist started signing his paintings as Gino Parin in 1900, when he was in his early 20s, instead of using his family surname, Polak.
I wonder why.
Parin was an art student in Munich at the time, so maybe he was trying out a new identity.
Speaking of identity, in 1898, Parin, who was born to a Jewish family, converted to Catholicism.
I guess this explains why a Jewish-born artist painted Christian themes.
Most likely. In looking over the trajectory of his work, it turns out that Gino created and exhibited several Catholic-themed paintings, mainly from 1900 to 1920s.
One of these is his monumental Stella Maris, which he finished in 1911. In Christianity, this is a traditional title for Mary, signifying Our Lady, Star of the Sea. We were able to see this painting in person in a private home in Sedona.
Originally, the central Madonna and Child scene was flanked by two side panels, each showing saints. Parin exhibited the complete Stella Maris in 1913 in the Trieste Room at the Second National Art Exhibition in Naples.
He was trying to establish a reputation not only for his more typical portraits and landscapes, but also for Christian subjects.
That's right! The year after he finished the Stella Maris, Parin exhibited an Annunciation in Trieste. Then, in 1920, a crucifixion was selected for display in the National Exhibition of Sacred Art in Venice. He also signed a deposition where Jesus lies at the foot of the cross and is mourned by his mother and followers.
Doesn't Ragazzoni say that Gino used his own face as the model for the features of the dead Christ in this deposition?
He does. Gino portraying himself as Christ or Christ as him.
Fascinating. He does that too in the Cottonwood Il Cristo, doesn't he?
So it seems, but the Jesus in the Cottonwood painting has a fuller, less angular face.
Ragazzoni places the Cottonwood Il Cristo in the final period of Parin's career, when he was no longer able to exhibit his work publicly.
Wait, when was this? Why couldn't Gino exhibit his work anymore?
Because this is the period between 1938 and 1944, when Italy's fascist regime considered Parin racially Jewish.
Because his parents were Jewish.
Correct. A census of all Jews in Italy was undertaken in August of 1938. Benito Mussolini even traveled to Trieste the following month to proclaim publicly his Manifesto of Race to a huge crowd in the city's main public square.
By October 1938, even Catholic converts like Parin were subject to these new racial laws. He could no longer teach or participate in public art exhibitions in the city where he had been living for the past 25 years.
Many of the Trieste's Jews decided to leave Italy at this time, but Gino stayed. He continued to receive commissions, and one in particular is especially important for understanding the Cottonwood Il Cristo.
We discovered a pamphlet dating to 1964, the 20th anniversary of Parin's death. It included a self-portrait of the artist and a short reflection written by Johannes Dietrich, the rector in charge of the German-speaking Catholic Church in Trieste. Dietrich had arrived in the city in 1938.
Dietrich tells us that Parin had been commissioned to paint a picture of Christ for his church.
Wow! Wait, is Dietrich referring to the Cottonwood Il Cristo?
Maybe, but we don't think so. Dietrich also says that Parin planned to synthesize the content of the many sermons he had heard over the years about the life, teachings, and sacrifice of Jesus.
We don't know how religiously devout Parin really was. So, can we trust Dietrich's recollection that claims Parin as a pious Catholic?
Hard to tell. Ragazzoni suggests that Parin's spirituality and devotion are expressed in his paintings of sacred Christian themes, especially early in his career.
Dietrich's pamphlet mentions that Parin had started a Christ painting, but was unable to finish it because he was arrested by the Gestapo in April of 1944 and accused of financial misconduct.
Before his arrest, Gino apparently created at least one study for this commission. Dietrich believes that this study is an oil-on-canvas painting, also known as Il Cristo, that Parin signed in the lower right corner and dated 1942.
This other Il Cristo painting is still in Trieste today. After the war, in March of 1946, the city displayed it as part of an exhibition in honor of Parin's work.
Interestingly, at that time, a local art critic and fellow painter, Giuseppe Matteo Campitelli, characterized this painting as a sketch. Presumably, Parin had been working on a larger canvas with the same subject for the German-speaking Catholic Church, but could not complete it.
Back to Il Cristo and the Cottonwood Church, Ragazzoni places it in Parin's final period. Her reasoning makes sense to us. Even when life became more restrictive for Jews in Trieste, Parin never stopped painting.
And he continued to receive commissions, mainly portraits of friends like Necki and Magda Springer, the eventual owners of the Cottonwood Il Cristo.
Wait, Necki and Magda Springer were still living in Trieste, Italy at the time.
Yes, they were both Lutheran and didn't leave Trieste until after the war.
In both Christ paintings, the one still in Trieste and the other in Cottonwood, the features of Jesus are almost identical. But the signed canvas in Trieste depicts his full body rather than just his torso and head.
Do we know anything else about either Il Cristo painting?
Well, another intriguing feature of the Cottonwood Il Cristo is that it includes a second painting on its backside.
A second painting?
Yes. When we turned the painting around, we found that Parin had painted a cheery cityscape that included a building with a smokestack.
Parin painted many landscapes throughout his career. This one is not illustrated in Ragazzoni's catalog, but she mentions it as a view of Trieste with the civic crematorium.
Did you just say crematorium? Did Trieste have a crematorium?
Yes, it did. Nazi Germany annexed Trieste in September of 1943 and started to operate a transit and prison camp called Risetta di San Saba. They built a crematory there. We will return to this issue later.
Because this idyllic cityscape with a smokestack on the back of Il Cristo is unsigned, we do not know when it was completed.
The more we are delving into Parin's life, the Cottonwood painting of Il Cristo becomes more captivating, even enigmatic. Perhaps one day it will no longer be hidden in the sacristy, but displayed in a prominent place.